Hi, everybody. This is David Nevins for Citybiz List, and welcome to our program today. Our guest today is Debilyn Molineaux, and Debilyn is the president and CEO of the Bridge Alliance. Now, you've heard us talk about the Bridge Alliance a bit on uh, previous broadcasts of this program, but I'm going to ask Debilyn to once again take a few seconds. Debilyn, tell us about the Bridge Alliance and all the good work that you've been doing around the country to, I would say, I don't want to answer the question for you, so excuse me, but it's ultimately about bridging political divides. And we have so many of those in the country today. So kudos for your involvement, your organization. Just tell us a little bit more about how you're approaching this.
Thank you, David. And I'm going to try not to take up the whole hour for this and do it just as briefly as I can. But Bridge Alliance, I think, is for everyone who has not heard of us yet. They need to know that Bridge Alliance is first and foremost a community of over 100 organizations that are working to strengthen democracy in the United States. And they do that through the bridging divides, as you mentioned, and those are both partisan divides, they're racial, ethnically divided lines, generational divisions, et cetera. But they also work on electoral reform, and we have another group of members that work in good governance and another group of members that work in media. So these four pillars of civic engagement, electoral reform, good governance, and the media are the four pillars for a healthy democracy, or a healthy republic, if you prefer. And so that is the work that we do, is to support that community.
So, Debilyn, this is not your first attempt, I understand. Your whole career has been about bridging political divides and advancing democracy. So take a minute or two and share some of your history with us in that regard.
Yeah, well, I think the fun part of this is that until 20 years ago, or 19 specifically, I had never done anything civically beyond vote. And there was a moment where I had this epiphany, and I was like, oh my gosh, we the citizens need to be involved in this process, because politics is running away with us. And that was in 2003. And so I went and started working, first of all, I ran for office myself, because, if you haven't done anything and you need a deep dive, let's dive into the deep end of the swimming pool. And I just ran for office. I didn't win, but after that, I got connected through that.
Lucky you, but
I know I would have been in office for all of those horrible budget cuts in 2009. So it was a blessing in disguise. But I got connected up with a group that was doing something that we called transpartisan politics at the time. We now call it cross-partisan politics, and they were really working across the ideological divides. And that led me to meet this wonderful woman named Joan Blades. And with Joan Blades and another team, a whole team of people, we co-founded and started Living Room Conversations in 2011. And that is some self-guided conversations that people can, with a few of their friends and family, sit down and have a meaningful dialogue across differences and really explore what we have in common and where we're different, and appreciate those disagreements that we have. And then I worked for a little while with Coffee Party USA and helping them set up over 300 chapters across the United States. And then in 2014, we had this group of people that were like, there's all these organizations out there that think they have a silver bullet to help save democracy. And, 2014 looks like kids played now. But we asked this question of what could we do better together? And the result of the answer was to form the Bridge Alliance and provide some connective tissue so that organizations could find ways to work together or complementary and all pull in the same direction, because we don't need just one silver bullet to help our nation move into this next iteration. We need everybody working and pulling in the same direction.
Indeed, we do. So, Debilyn, I'm going to ask you a question. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. We don't, on these conversations, we don't often get into sort of self-help and how people can really accomplish things. It's more an organizational leader talking about their organization, and if you want more information, here's how you contact us. But I know that you are at least a bit of an expert. I guess that means you are an expert on helping people have constructive conversations with one another
Mhm.
in these otherwise really divisive and trying times. And so I asked this question somewhat selfishly because I know when my wife and I, go out to dinner with someone, I review with her the she obviously she knows what our politics are, and I review with her the other couples or multiple couples politics, and then we oftentimes just come to the conclusion, let's talk sports.
Right.
Which means let's avoid politics, right?
Right.
But there, politics and government and democracy and those sort of things are kind of important. Believe it or not, maybe even more important than the upcoming football game. Maybe not, but maybe so. At least equal to the football game, right? So um, I want to turn this into a question. I know you've held seminars on this and you've really counseled. Give give me and our other viewers some advice and counsel. How do you have these conversations with people? There's so much. I guess I'll say. Somewhat maybe disrespect, and maybe that's what you're going to say first. It's about respect, but there's so much disregard for the opposing point of view politically
Mhm.
today that it doesn't seem to me that this has been the case for that many years. So sorry for the long question, but I'm going to let you.
I'm
Where do
gonna
we go from here, Debbie
I'm
Lynn?
going to tug at a couple of threads there in what you've
Okay.
pointed out. I think the first thing is that as a nation, we need to remember how to have fun with each other right now. The way through the difficulty isn't to always be doing the difficult thing, which is right now having conversations and activities that bring us together. But it's also not avoiding those difficult conversations. Democracy is at its best when it's a process through which we disagree and still find solutions. So if you kind of remember, like the point of having a conversation with somebody who is different from yourself is not to be right, which is most often how these conversations end up, and everybody like storms off in a huff. The goal is actually to work through the disagreement, right? It's to find like what kernel of truth does your media source have that my media source is ignoring, and vice versa, because every one of the conspiracy theories that are out there, every one of the TV media news, and what we see on social media are all taking some kernel of the truth and spinning it up into some story to motivate us to hate each other. Because what happens? Somebody profits, or they keep power. It's about power and profit. And so to subvert that process, we have to be really skilled at having those conversations and recognizing the forces of division where they're working in our own lives and in our own relationships. So I love that you review with your wife before you guys go out to dinner, like, here's what's likely to come up, right?
Right.
I would also suggest that you take that moment and say, and here's what I want to ask or what I'm curious about, that no matter what they say, I'm not going to be triggered into getting into that I'm right and storming off mode, right? So I'm going to stay in the relationship. I'm going to tap my curiosity until that well is dry, or we can't handle the tension anymore. And then let's go find something to laugh at and have fun together. And maybe it's sports, you know, go Dodgers. So I just really want to know.
What?
I know. Orioles are my fourth favorite team right now.
Okay.
But it really is about also building our skill set of being able to handle and sit with discomfort and tension and still love the other person that we're talking to, or at least respecting them, as you mentioned, because people don't have beliefs that they're holding without an information environment that tells them that that's true without some stake of their ego or identity attaching to it. And also because they really do want to make the world a better place, and they somehow think this belief is gonna help them make the world a better place. And if it's by identifying an enemy that they can fight, well, we just, you know, need to identify who are the actual enemies of this time right now. And it's not us, it's not each other that are the enemies right now. It's the disinformation. There's some foreign actors. um, there's the seeking of power and profit at any cost, which is really bad for business. And I just want to like push that in there too, because business thrives when we have a stable society, and the destabilization that we're seeing right now is really bad for business.
Yeah, so well put, Debilyn. And I love the, keep it light, have fun, remember, the good qualities that the other person brings to the table, and so on and so forth. You did mention something that I think exacerbates the situation that we all find ourselves in, and that's the world of social media, of course. And there was, no doubt you saw the great documentary film of about a year ago. I think it was called The Social Dilemma, was it? So, one of the things, I mean, this is the business I'm in, marketing and social media and so forth. But one of the things that a lot of people maybe didn't begin to recognize until recently is that um, the more information we all approach things with an initial point of view, let's say, and the whatever that point of view may be, the social media world figures out a way to give you more information with that point of view, and then more and more and more, as opposed to a more well-rounded point of view. And I, I'm sure you have some thoughts on that. I'm not sure how we fix it as a society. And you mentioned foreign actors. Some of it is about that. Most of it probably not. So let me ask you to respond. It's so difficult out there. Not only the in-person conversation, but then whatever views we have are cemented
Mhm.
further by the world of social media.
Yeah, so I don't know how to fix the algorithms or the social media companies. That's way above my pay grade, but there are a lot of people working on that. All I know how to do really is work on my own behavior when I'm online. And in order to do that, I set up some rules for myself. And I wish that more people would adopt or at least consider like what rules should they have for engaging on social media. Here are my rules. Number 1, always be respectful. Number 2, don't ask gotcha questions or make statements that are going to try and make other people look foolish, like honor the dignity of all people. The third one is don't drink and Facebook or Twitter or any of that. Like drinking, I have to tell you, having moderated some big Facebook pages, I'm not much on Twitter, but I notice like after 10 o'clock at night, the quality of the discourse degrades rapidly. And I think it's because there's a lot of people sitting at home drinking and being on Facebook, and they're just like, oh, ha, ha, this is really funny. And then they have regrets in the morning because they've just been unfriended by 5 people they really love, right? So don't
Something
drunk.
something else to regret in the morning, right?
Yeah, go, yeah.
After a night of drinking. Now, Facebook.
It is. It's not called drunk booking for for no reason, right? It's called drunk booking. So those are my rules. Like, be respectful, honor the dignity of all. Um, don't ask gotcha questions, and don't drink and be on social media. So if I can, there's an idea that I've had for several years now that we haven't figured out how to launch or do. So if there's somebody out there who wants to take this on, please contact me. But it's called Trolls for Good. And it's like a way developing a program for people who want to make a good contribution, who want to take social media back to being the fun, connect with your friends and family place that it was intended to be, and giving them a program to do that. Remember, social media companies, and this is something else that I always remember, social media companies are seeking your attention because they make money. And so if you are on Facebook and you feel, or Twitter or Instagram, because you are bored and there's nothing else to do, you are rewarding their algorithmic malfeasance with your attention. So, go read a book, go have dinner with friends, go do something if you're not able to maintain good social media presence and it's not benefiting your life.
Additional good advice, Debilyn. Thank you. Debilyn, you have an interesting perspective, I think, on how businesses can contribute to our democracy. Share your thoughts on that as well, if you don't mind.
I would love to share some ideas here and also a couple of resources. So part of Bridge Alliance, we have member organizations, and two of our member organizations work specifically with business about the role of business in both protecting our constitutional republic and in helping their employees or executives be better citizens. So the first is Business for America. They have both a over 250, I think it is, businesses that have signed up to help give their employees days off to go vote, to encourage their employees to go and work the polls or do some other civic activity of civic engagement. It really helps stabilize the community where they are and be involved. So it helps businesses with goodwill in their community, and then it helps our democracy by having more workers or more participants, if you will, that are supported by their employer. So that's Business for America. The second organization that does a lot with businesses, and you may have actually interviewed both people from both of these groups, is Leadership Now Project. And this is a membership organization with executives and business owners who are looking at policy that is both pro-business but doesn't undermine democracy. One of the challenges that we have today is that, especially multinational or global corporations and big business in general have gotten so big in our nation that their voice outweighs, if you will, in the political sphere, the voice of citizens, of we the people. And so there's a movement to try and correct that from within the business community, and Leadership Now Project is also in that conversation. There are other efforts underway as well that I'm aware of, looking at like corporations analyzing, how much money they're spending in lobbying and how does that then influence democracy itself, not just the issue. So there's this kind of multi-layered, if you will, approach to rethinking business's role both in politics and in our communities themselves. We need strong business. Strong business is essential, and business needs a stable society, and that's where we're at right now. We need to work together.
So Debilyn, how can people learn more about the Bridge Alliance? How can they learn more about your work? How can they get involved? And maybe they're already with organizations that want to get involved in your work as well.
So we have probably three main opportunities for business and individuals to get involved with Bridge Alliance. The first would be if folks watching this are a business owner and they want to do something, for democracy. I think the first thing is to check out citizenconnect.us. This is an initiative that Bridge Alliance runs that's intended to help people within one or two clicks find something that they want to do to participate in a healthy way. And we're just about to launch a business version of that people can either white label and use internally in their own intranet system, or they can support and sponsor Citizen Connect itself and get brownie points for being a good citizen. The second is that we run a media platform called The Fulcrum, and we need more pro-business supporting democracy editorial pieces or opinion pieces and essays. So we would encourage people to submit opinion pieces to opinions@thefulcrum.us because we would love to publish them, more pro-business in favor of democracy type of essays. And then the third is to look at bridgealliance.us itself. This is the mothership. This is our community of 100 plus organizations. And if you feel so inclined, join our email list, make a donation, and be in community with us.
Thank you, Debilyn. This has been a fascinating conversation, and I am going to use some of your advice. My next dinner out with, well, let me think. My next dinner out is with people who are like-minded, but the one after, I'm going to have a chat with Susie and say I was speaking to Debilyn Molineaux, and here's her advice, and let's try to implement it.
And then write it up in an essay and send it to us so we can model what needs to happen.
Okay, I'll let you know. Debilyn, this has been a fun and fascinating conversation. Keep up your good work for sure.
And thank you for your support. Really appreciate it, David.
It's our pleasure. This has been David Nevins for Citybiz List. Thank you so much for watching today.